the Visser Voltemata thing, everybody's been crying out to see this as more of a 4-2-3-1, have Voltemata with his link-up play, be slightly deeper, have Visser run the channels, pull defenders around. And it's one of those, I feel like it's one of those options that feels great because you've never seen it. It's one of those, like when players are out with injury, they become the solution, they become the answer because you're not seeing them play and you're not seeing like sort of the ups and downs of what they're doing. I do think it's an option there, and I think the fact he explored it in a game like that at home where you're favoured and you fancy, you're going to want to go through, is a good indication. I'd like to see it in game as opposed to be something from the start. Like I really want to see when we're chasing a game, I want to see them on the pitch together then when the opportunities are coming in, rather than necessarily it's just sort of like, oh well, we can. I mean, because he started him technically out on the left, although he did a lot of work more in the middle. So he did kind of play like that. When we're not flush with loads of really, really good options, we've got a lot of honest players. So I think Ramsey's starting to turn a little bit of a corner.
Yeah, definitely.
The performances have improved, but he's not somebody who you'd say everybody being fit is banging on the door to unseat one of the other lads in midfield. So I think the position we're in at the minute is a lot of the changes and a lot of the setup is sort of feels like it's a bit of necessity at the minute. So yeah.
Where would you say, do you think Voltemada's best position is? Because having seen him kind of dropping into that, position behind the striker,
it's still centre forward. It's still centre forward. Like when you watch him, even just with us as well as Germany, like when you get runners around him and when you get bodies around him and you allow him to connect with other players, he looks absolutely fantastic. The games where he struggled are the games where he's looked really isolated, and we haven't necessarily got the ball into his feet well enough or early enough, and when we have the options for him to do things with it haven't necessarily been there. I still think he leads the line really effectively. A lot of the best goals he scored for us, he's been pushed right up that end of the pitch. The Everton one's fantastic. He goes behind the line for that. He is still a centre forward. I don't think he's not a number 10 in the classic sense, but he is 100% a centre forward. But he is one that you do have to do things around to get the best out of him. Certainly at this stage of his career.
Yeah, you mentioned Jacob Ramsey there as well, Jack. If you also include Anthony Elanga, another player that came on in that game, who we do need to have a chat about.
Do we? Is Need doing a lot of heavy lifting?
I think unfortunately you kind of got to speak about him, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially that one, it's just been a bit disappointing, really. But how would you kind of assess all of the summer business now that we're kind of 6 months into this season?
Yeah, Elanga at the moment looking like potentially one of our worst ever signings, genuinely at this moment in time. But what I'm saying is just at the moment. We've seen as well, I mean, Lewis Hall took a while to develop and grow into a really good player. Anthony Gordon took a while as well. You have got to still give him time. It's just what I'm struggling with the moment with Elanga is I'm not even seeing the basics he's doing wrong. Like, if 5-yard passes he can't do, he's not running at anyone, he's not using his pace. He seems so short of confidence, but even like any belief in his own ability that he can change a game or even just keep the ball, essentially. He was working hard. He's working hard and tracking back and stuff, and he's clearly trying, but at the moment for £55 million, 1 assist in 26 games isn't enough for when right wing's been a position we've wanted to change him for ages.
Yeah, is that because he's playing a kind of different role to the one that he did at Forest, who were a very counter-attacking team, do you think?
Look, when I did the video on him, and like even when we spoke about him on the other podcasts, like I've said that it's sort of similar to Wisser in a sense that they probably did quite spectacularly overpay for Anthony Elanga, and they didn't buy somebody. I know Eddie Howe described him as being Premier League ready, but that's in the sense of like he's not going to take any time to adapt to the league. He's got to take time to adapt the system the way every player you buy does. And I said at the time they hadn't bought a player who was an immediate plug-in that fixes the right wing issue, that improves, that raises the level. They brought a bit of a project. They saw somebody with really good raw ingredients doing a really specific job at Nottingham Forest. But then when you break down why he's good at what he's doing at Forest, it's because he's got incredible athleticism. He's really good driving with the ball. He progresses it excellently up the pitch, which is something we haven't really had on that side. Jacob Murphy was fantastic last season, but he was fantastic with end product. Overall, play was a little bit lacking. We didn't dominate games with him in the side. But what he would do is he would put those early balls in. He linked it really well with Isak. The numbers, told their own story, but you can improve on that. What's happened is he's come in, and they are obviously working with him, but it's just when you buy a project, there's a lot of work to do, and thus far that work is not really yielding any results. Like I did the tweet after the game, like the numbers is like staggeringly bad. He's in the bottom 1% for take-ons in the Premier League this season of all the wingers. The bottom 1%. There isn't a number low. You can't be in the bottom 0%. The bottom 1%.
That is as bad as it
But I said in the tweet, I was like, it's still early days, and I got a lot of replies being like, how can you? It's early. He's been here 6 months. He's had 11 starts.
Yeah.
He's had 11 starts. He's been in and out. They clearly have not settled on what the best use of him is. And there's certain games where you put him in, you think, this is one for Elanga. Then that's when the responsibility is his to then go and show. So even if it's not, snap your fingers and it's an immediately brilliant performance, that's when it's on him as a professional to go and show, well, look, I'm maybe not the best fit for this yet. I'm maybe still a few months away from being the finished article, but I'll get the ball. Watch me do this. Watch me show you something, even if it's not quite right. And I think, we don't see them in training. Maybe it works every single day in training. Maybe they're sitting there scratching their heads going, I can't believe this isn't yielding something on the pitch because he's on board with the instructions. He looks really good. Everything's clicking into place through the week. But then we put him on the pitch, it's not quite there. We don't know whether that's the case or not. He might be diabolical in training for all we know. He might be even worse. But he has to now, I think, take a bit of the responsibility because clearly the club have had 6 months to work on him. Yeah. But those 11 starts, he would probably argue, that's not a massive run of games yet, especially when he's been in and out.
Yeah.
So I think he now has to go and do something just to be like, look, please stick with me. Watch what I can do when things fall into place. But Man City was about as far away from that as I've seen.
Yeah, his confidence just looks absolutely shot. And you know what? It's funny, isn't it? It just feels to me like there was a bit of a sliding doors moment in that opening.
The Villa, the miss against Villa.
I know. No, you are. You know what?
And he missed that chance early on. And you just feel if that went in,
I think it's very different.
We could have been looking at a totally different player. But hopefully, as you say, Adam, that he can improve. And you made some good examples there, Jack, about players like Lewis Hall and Anthony Gordon potentially who have eventually come good and seriously looked maybe not this poor, but not certainly players that you were confident about their future.
And also another thing, a lot of players when they speak about working with Eddie Howe, they always say that it takes them a while to learn exactly what he wants. I mean, if you listen to Dan Burn, what he was saying on the commentary for the punditry, he said that we have patterns of play and we know 3 passes ahead of exactly where the ball's probably going to end up when, say, Bruno's got the ball. Right, it's going to take more than just a few training sessions to learn that. So I appreciate the negativity towards Elanga. You have got to judge him for what you've seen so far. Equally, we do have to give him. We have still got to give him time because we have spent a bit of money on him, and ultimately, the club have decided to invest in him. I saw Howe's comments on him today. He said he wants the fans to give him love and what have you, and feel loved and respected and stuff. And I think that's a clear message from Eddie that just wants some backing for Elanga.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think as well, and I don't want to sit here and make loads of excuses for him because, again, you pay that money, he hasn't shown, say whatever you want about sort of the framework around him. This is probably, if you're a player who's going to take a lot of work from the coaches and your teammates in training, this is arguably the worst season we've ever had in terms of actual minutes on the training ground. Now, don't get me wrong, look at Semenyo. Right, that's a completely different system. He's gone to a completely different team. It's a similar sort of transfer to the one we've made with Elanga, and he's hit the ground running like that. And it can go that way just as easily, but it hasn't. And so you've got to work with what you've got. And they knew they were getting a player who was going to take a bit of work. And if you think about the fixture pilot we have, the amount of actual, really long periods during the week where they'll be like, right, we can knuckle down, we can learn all this stuff. He's getting so relatively few minutes compared to what you'd want with the coaches and with the staff. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm just sort of hand-waving a £55 million fee for a really important position.
Exactly.
It hasn't been enough. He has got to start doing more. Yeah. Eddie Howe's right to ask the fans to stick with him, but it does work both ways. I can understand the frustrations, and he's got to show that it's worth sticking with him. Yeah. But at the same time, it's been really difficult for him, and I do understand why it has been difficult, but I mean, look, if he scores a hat-trick against Man City and we end up going through the Carabao Cup final, nobody's going to remember how bad his first
No, that is the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, talking of which, the second leg.
Yep.
Jack, how are you feeling